Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are completely shattering a massive corporate myth. You probably think company success equals personal success, right? You think massive growth naturally means a bigger paycheck for you. Well, you are absolutely wrong.
Let's start with a really simple question. Imagine your company suddenly scales up. They totally dominate the market. They literally double their output. Does your paycheck automatically go up? Common sense screams yes, doesn't it? We all know the saying, a rising tide lifts all boats.
But here is the brutal, face-slapping reality. No. If that expansion is large enough, your average wage will actually drop. You will likely make less money. That rising tide, it doesn't lift your boat, it completely swamps it. Get ready, because we're about to turn everything you know about climbing the corporate ladder completely upside down.
And to prove this isn't just some wild theory, we're diving into a massive, incredibly dense dataset. Researchers tracked an insane 90.7% of all French manufacturing. They didn't just casually poll some CEOs. No, they merged actual corporate balance sheets right into mandatory worker earnings. We're talking 25 million employment observations. This is hard, undeniable, cold data.
Okay, Section 1, Anatomy of a Hierarchy, Deconstructing the Corporate Ladder. Let's get into it. Let's visually break down how these companies are actually built. First off, forget those fancy job titles. Instead, think of a layer simply as a group of people hired to solve a specific level of problems. Because look, knowledge is expensive. It's a highly costly input. Companies are never going to buy more knowledge than they absolutely need.
So here's the core logic of a hierarchy. Workers on the floor handle the basics. They do the routine stuff. But what happens if they hit a wall? They don't just stop. They pass the problem up the chain. They hand it off to a much more expensive, much more knowledgeable manager. You basically pay the worker to know the basics, and you pay the manager to know the exceptions.
Just look at the physical reality of these firms right here. See that green bar? That's the base layer of workers. The pink and orange, those are your managers. Now, watch what happens as these firms grow from 0 to 3 management layers. The base of workers gets dramatically wider. It's huge. Meanwhile, the top gets way taller and highly paid. The entire corporate hierarchy physically morphs and changes shape.
Moving on to the next section, the expansion wage shock. 2 paths of growth.
You see, growth isn't just one single path. Minor growth actually makes everyone richer. The firm doesn't bother reorganizing. Everyone just grinds a bit harder, and existing wages rise. Nice, right? But massive growth? Oh boy. That triggers a total top-to-bottom reorganization. They add a whole new management layer, and that specific action actively dilutes your average pay.
So why exactly do wages drop? Well, the math is just ruthless. When a firm adds a new layer of management, they immediately start sweating about costs. So what do? They hire vastly more workers at the very bottom. Because these new workers need way less knowledge, they are vastly cheaper to employ. And this massive flood of cheap labor, it drags the whole company average straight down. Your layer's average wage just totally sank.
Which brings us to our next section, the exporter effect, the ultimate demand shock. So what actually causes this brutal reorganization in the real world? The biggest catalyst is usually global trade. Getting access to international markets isn't just a high-five moment for the executives. It acts as a massive demand shock. Out of nowhere, the company is completely flooded with this unprecedented volume of orders. And the mechanics here are completely relentless. A company starts exporting. Suddenly, they are forced to reorganize just to handle the sheer volume of stuff going out the door. So they add a brand new management layer to solve all these complex new logistical problems, and boom, average wages for existing roles just plummet. The firm's massive global success literally just costs the average worker their wage growth. How wild is that? Let's do a quick reality check on this data in our next section. Data flaws and rigidities.
The really fascinating twist here is the location. Remember, this is French data, and French labor laws are incredibly strict. It is notoriously difficult to legally lower a worker's actual wage there. Economists call it having severe downward wage rigidities. So how did wages still drop in this data? Well, mostly through turnover. Expensive workers left and vastly cheaper ones replaced them. But really think about this for a second. Imagine a more flexible labor market without those strong protections. This wage dilution effect wouldn't just take time, it might be immediate. It could be violently worse. This data might actually be understating the pain.
Let's wrap things up in our final section. The new rules of growth, rethinking the ladder.
Let's pull all of this together.
Corporate scaling is not just some rising tide that helps everybody. That is a comfortable fairy tale myth. True scaling is a fundamental and honestly often painful restructuring of the whole business. It completely changes who solves problems. It completely changes how much those people get paid. Constant reorganization is the true hidden engine of corporate expansion.
So I want to leave you with this provocative thought. Please keep this in the front of your mind the next time your CEO takes the stage at a town hall, the next time they excitedly announce record-breaking global growth. Ask yourself a hard question. Are you going to be the one climbing that shiny new management ladder? Or are you just going to get pushed down into a much cheaper, much wider bottom? Really think about it. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time.